Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday, July 12th, and it is episode 5 of the Hardcore Smarks, a show where a group of know-it-all smart marks talk about their hardcore obsessions. I am your host, Zachary, and with me, as always, is Stretch, Wally5, J-Bone, and Coach. Guys, how are we doing?
Good. Splendid.
Well, technically, Coach is a special guest this week.
Wouldn't know it. It's always. So,
thank you for joining us, Coach Joe, this week.
I'm just a fifth wheel hopping along on the train. That's all.
This is a fun train most of the time.
Until it derails, and we all die horribly.
Trains are supposed to be fun, so let's keep it going.
We're going to be changed up a little bit this week. So instead of wrestling, we're not going to be focusing on that, although we will be still getting to it towards the end of the podcast. Instead, we're going to be talking about college football, some of our favorite players, some of our favorite teams. Well, you want to start leading this party off?
Sure. So two of us on this podcast like the same team. We are Florida State Seminoles fans. And we have both been Florida State Seminoles fans for a good chunk of our life. And both of us kind of started watching Florida State because of the same player even. So, Coach Joe, who would that player be?
That would be Mr. Neon Dion Primetime Deion Sanders, number deuce on Florida State Seminoles. Yes, sir.
So,
best defensive cornerback in college football history.
So me and Coach Joe here are going to give some of our favorite Florida State players that we've seen play. So we're going to go over our list of our favorite Florida State players. So, Joe, if you would like to name some of yours.
Okay. I'll go through my inventory here of Florida State players. Not everyone. I'm more of a defensive guy than offense. I'm more defensive dudes on my team, on my list here, I should say. Of course, numero uno, Dion. Other guys is Leroy Butler, Corey Simon, Andre Wadsworth, Marvin Jones, and Derek Brooks. Round out my defensive guys.
I have Derek Brooks also.
Definitely a beast. And then offensive, I have work done Peter Warrick.
I have both of them.
Charlie Ward, but I just thought of somebody else because he has a cool nickname. Snoop Minnis.
What'd you say, Jay?
Pooh Bear Williams.
Nice.
No, not that one.
Household name there.
Snoop Minnis. He was another one of my guys. He was a cool wide receiver. Very good wide receiver. That's my list of those there's other ones,
I'll name some. Maybe I'm going to name some of the guys you didn't, Joe. I will also say famous Jameis Winston and Peter Boulware.
Yeah.
Rashad Green. Me and Joe actually got to see Rashad Green and famous Jameis play in person. So we actually saw Rashad Green break the record for most receptions in a career at Florida State when we were there that day. So my favorite quarterback of all time at Florida State is Chris Weinke. So he's on my list. And then my oddball person is Sebastian Janikowski.
Hey, there you go, representing the special teams.
He was the best
kicker.
He was the best kicker I've ever seen. I know we had Aguayo after him, but Janikowski was a weapon because every time he kicked the ball off, it was a touchback because you were kicking off from further back then. Now it doesn't matter.
Didn't he hold a while? He held a record longest field goal in the NFL in the modern era or something like that.
No.
I swear
he tried.
He kicked a 64-yarder or tried to one time.
I still think the guy from Denver has the record, doesn't he?
I believe he might, yes.
Somebody may have tied it.
He's kicked some long ones in college, though, as well.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Warrick is probably my favorite player on this list. I loved Peter Warrick. So he was really, really good. And that one national title game, he touched the ball once and they didn't win. And then a year later, he touched the ball 8 times and scored 3 touchdowns and won that. Yeah. He was my favorite. It was sad that he didn't end up being a good NFL player, and he didn't win the Heisman Trophy because he got a suit deeply discounted.
80% discount.
To put it lightly.
So,
I mean, someone's going to offer me an 80% discount. Oh, we have a special going on today. Okay, cool. Oh, wow. It's a really discount.
I'm taking it.
Oh, thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Stretch, why don't you tell us about your favorite team?
Team-wise, I always grew up kind of watching the University of Texas. It was always on in my household. My dad was a big UT fan. I'm by far the youngest person on this podcast, so I grew up watching around time of like 04 onward. So saw a lot of Vince Young, watched, him kill it in the national title game against USC, probably one of the greater performances I've seen in a while out of college football in the short time that I've been watching it. I liked Colt McCoy a lot after him. I wished a lot more, I wish he would have had a lot more success. Wish he would have brought home a national title too. But
if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, if he wouldn't have gotten hurt in that game against Alabama, I think that they would have won that game.
Yeah, I liked him and Jordan Shipley were a deadly 1-2 punch. Yes. I liked him a lot.
Shipley was sweet. Jay's a big Shipley guy too.
Yeah, another guy who made it to the NFL, had concussion problems, and then fiddled out in probably a year or two. But that was my experience. I grew up watching a lot of Texas games, so a lot of Red River rivalry as well. Just a lot of Longhorns.
J-Bone.
I'm going to go with Ohio State for my favorite team.
Spoiler! There's a shocker.
Yeah, been a huge Buckeye fan for as long as I can remember, obviously. So my favorite players on defense, I'm going to go with A.J. Hawk. He's probably my favorite Buckeye of all time. James Laurinaitis, Mike Doss, the Bosa brothers, and Chris Gamble.
Those guys are all really good players. So
yeah.
On offense, I like Troy Smith, Braxton Miller. I know he wasn't the greatest quarterback, but he was just electric anytime he had his hands on the ball. Ezekiel Elliott, Eddie George, and kind of an oddball Dane Sausenbacher. I always liked him. So.
I did like him too. He was the slot receiver, right? The short guy. I did like him.
He played on Joe's Bears too, didn't he?
Yeah, Joe.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Showing a little bit of the Chicago love there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think out of that list, Eddie George would be my top OSU guy. I always liked him in the NFL. Mm-hmm. He was always a standout guy. He was that typical running back that I enjoy watching. And he did it very well in the pros too.
For me, this one may surprise you, Jay. I actually liked A.J. Hawk.
He was a great linebacker.
Yeah. I only admit stuff at certain times, so file this one away. So
it's on video forever.
It's not going to be erased.
If Hawk or even Laurinaitis would have played anywhere other than there, I probably would have liked Laurinaitis for sure. So, I mean, he has wrestling ties, so I 100% would have liked him. So, I have admitted at times that we're not going to go into details, but I did like a couple guys that played for the basketball team too. So,
remember that shit, Jay. File that away.
I was about to say, save this recording.
Jay knows about the basketball. Jay knows about the
podcast.
Yeah.
You made that comment about A.J. Hawk. Do you remember that?
He's never heard that one before, but he knew about the basketball players already.
While he's going to be on his deathbed, Jay's going to be over top of him. Remember that A.J. Hawk
A.J.
comment?
Hawk. He's going to buy me a little pin with A.J. Hawk jersey.
That'll be Matt's that'll be Wally's final demise right there. He puts the pin on him. and they're always like, oh, fuck this. It just goes away. Just takes it.
Oh, boy.
I can't deal with it no more. I'm gone.
The only thing that ruined A.J. Hawk is getting drafted by the Fudge Pack.
Yes, that is the only thing that really ruined it. Zach, look at Zach.
Zach's face, you care to intervene.
He's got
correct,
J-Bone.
Correct.
Yeah, there's 3 Packers haters on here. Sorry, Zach.
It's all good.
That's fired.
Hey, at least him going there got him a Super Bowl.
So we can Zach, what's up now, Zach? What's up next?
Yeah, so if we're talking about some of our favorite teams there, let's go ahead and talk about some of our favorite players.
So do our top 5s.
Yeah, let's start with top 5. That sounds like a fun thing to do. Something a little bit different from our usual way we do things around here.
So again,
let's go 5 to 1.
Being the youngest person on here, my people are going to be a lot more modern than these guys. So
that's fair.
5-1. My 5 was Tebow. 4 was Adrian Peterson. 3 Cam Newton. 2 McCaffrey, and 1 Vince Young.
Jay,
a legitimate, solid top 5.
Number 5 for me is Orlando Pace. Number 4, Tim Tebow. 3, Deion Sanders. 2, Barry Sanders, and 1, Randy Moss.
That's Hall of Fame worthy right there.
I will. Joe Burrow's 5 for me. Randy Moss is 4. Deion's 3. Marshall Faulk is 2, and Vince Young is number 1.
Did we hear Wally ranked a former Buckeye as his number 5?
Wow.
Man, showing the love, Matt. Or Wally, I'm sorry, Wally showing the love.
He didn't play for them last year.
But now he's back in the state of Ohio.
I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. If he did that for Ohio State, I don't think it would matter. I can't disrespect. He only played 1 season, but it was the best season a quarterback's ever had, period.
Yeah. He's on my honorable mentions.
So, Joe, you're left.
All right. So, my number 5 is going to be Ron Dane. My number 4 is going to be Steve McNair. My number 3 is going to be Vince Young. My number 2 is going to be Desmond Howard. And my number 1 is Deion.
Nice. Hey,
It's
Zachary,
Deion.
no pressure here. What's your top 5?
I'll go Watt from Wisconsin.
It's 3 right there.
That's all I got. I do not watch college football. So.
I'm just messing with you, Zach.
I mean, that's a solid 3 right there.
So I'll go first. I can talk about some of the guys I picked, and you guys can chime in. I believe Eli also had his number 1 was the same as mine, correct?
Yes.
Like I said about Burrow already, he threw for 60 touchdowns.
Yeah, insane.
It was like 60 touchdowns and 6 picks, 5,600 yards, and his completion percentage was like 76. That's ridiculous.
Obscene.
Like that's, and I don't like picking a player for 1 season. It's tough, but I can't. I can't disrespect what happened. So
No,
It's
right.
not like he played against a chump conference. He was in the SEC, and even his non-conference games were somewhat challenging as well in regards to that schedule. So that's legitimate work against a legitimate conference and strong teams.
As much as people want to hate on the guy, he did put in work.
And I believe Jay told me that he had 1 game where he had like 2 touchdowns, and I think he had 4 touchdowns in every other game or more.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I will skip I'll let Jay have the Randy Moss since he was number 1 on his list. A bunch of us also have Deion Sanders. I will let Joe take him because that's his number 1. My number 2 is Marshall Faulk. I used to stay up at night to watch Marshall Faulk. Like his games were on at 11 o'clock at night because he played at San Diego State. So I would stay up. When I'm staying up to watch a player, he must be really fucking good. So
Yeah, I
agree.
He definitely was.
His second game of his career, he rushed for 386 yards and 7 touchdowns. So he kind of burst on the scene even. Like he was a household name his freshman year. So he had 3 really good seasons there. He finished second in the Heisman in his second year. He was a beast. So like three really good seasons there, and I really liked him. I also think me and Jay both liked him. I believe Jay is also a Marshall Faulk guy, if I'm not mistaken. So I will let the rest of you talk. When Eli gets to Vince Young, I will definitely chime in there.
Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and throw a few of mine out there too. So real quick too, as an honorable mention, I did have Calvin Johnson. I wrestled with him and Tebow between who would get number 5. I had to go with Tebow just because man won 2 national titles and created a culture. He created a culture, so he became more of a meme in his NFL career, but he did put up some crazy numbers and have some amazing performances at that university. So
he was good. Most of us hate him, but he was good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So mad respect to him for that. Cam Newton, again, only basing it off of 1 season at Auburn, but that 1 season was a national title winning season, and in the And
Scam Newton.
In the SEC, which is historically the most difficult conference to play, your conference games in and the most difficult scheduling, but he pulled it out. I mean, it's a good story if you take away the scam part.
The scam.
Him going. I mean, he fell out at Florida, went to a junior college, and ended up back in the SEC. So, I mean, it was a cool story. So there's that. Adrian Peterson also just I always like the idea of a bigger running back, like a power running back, somebody who can run around you, through you, and over you. And I felt like Adrian Peterson in his prime was all that in a bag of chips.
It was funny for Jay because Jay hates Oklahoma, but then Peterson went to the Vikings. So Jay became a Peterson fan then, but he didn't like him in college.
I mean, hey,
you have no choice at that point.
Like I said, I was a diehard University of Texas fan growing up, and I had to watch Adrian Peterson run all over us in multiple games. So I hated him then, but I mean, I respect him now for putting together a great career in college and in the NFL.
He did. He was good. It was just funny because me and Jay have been friends for so long.
Right.
Jay, I remember when Jay didn't like him, and then he's like, "Shit."
Now you're forced to.
When you rush for 297 yards in a game, you start liking the guy.
Yeah, you're like, holy shit.
I mean, I did have to root for Tebow. So, I mean, remember, being a Broncos fan, a lot of my friends found it quite amusing when the Broncos drafted Tebow. I got several texts.
And Brian Greasy.
Yes. What a piece of shit he was.
Yeah, and then my last one before my number one that Wally and I were going to talk about was McCaffrey at number 2. Again, just power running back. I liked him, and I always like the people that Stanford seem to turn out. It's just people with a high football IQ and kind of they learn their plays, they show up, they do their job, and there's no drama ever. They always had them. They had Andrew Luck. They had Toby Gerhart, who was another great running back from back in the day. But yeah, so McCaffrey, and he's tearing it up in the NFL right now. So much respect to him. And that brings us to Vince Young, probably strung together one of, if not the best college football single game performance I've ever seen in a national title game.
Actually, if you take the 2 Rose Bowls, like the back-to-back Rose Bowls, that dude showed up on the big stage. I don't know who else has ever so I have it here. He had 500 yards passing and 400 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns in those 2 Rose Bowls. So
that's crazy against some pretty damn good USC defense
and Michigan the year before.
Yeah.
And Jay has a soft spot for them because they beat Michigan. I know he does. So, and Cedric Benson didn't do shit in that Rose Bowl. It was all Vince Young. So that was almost like Vince Young's coming out party was that Rose Bowl, and he just carried it through to the next year. I've never seen a quarterback show up that big on the big stage 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that separates him. His numbers aren't as good as some of the other great quarterbacks we've seen. I think I remember the most about VY is him showing up on the big stage like he did. And everybody that was watching that game probably knew what was happening on that 4th down, and it still happened.
Yeah. One of the most iconic plays.
And for me personally, as a Texas and a Florida State fan, that was the exact same end zone that Florida State won the national championship in 8 years later. So I love that end zone in that stadium, that's for sure.
Bringing you good luck.
Definitely did.
I wish Young would have had a better pro career because I really, really liked him. He was a very likable player, I think.
He started off promising and wasn't he in the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year? Did he win it or something along the lines of that?
I think he won it.
He had a decent rookie season, like a really damn good rookie season, but it never just seemed to click with him. Like, I don't think him and Jeff Fisher ever really clicked as a coach-quarterback combo, and then it all just kind of went downhill. He ended up on the Eagles, backing up some people for a year, and he was on the Packers. Like, it just never clicked for him.
He's also one of my favorite, even you could throw him in with my Florida State guys. He's one of my favorite college football players of all time. I have a jersey for almost every person on, the only person I don't have a jersey for on my list. Well, I don't have a college jersey for Deion, but I have a Burrow's the only one I don't have a college jersey for on my list. So I almost busted out the Randy Moss Marshall jersey. I thought about it.
That would have
been sweet too.
Go ahead, Joe.
I'm a defensive guy. I like special teams. I like running backs. I know I have 2 quarterbacks on here. Vince Young is Vince Young. We already talked about him. I'm a big fan of small college guys, of course.
I like
favorite
Steve
of all time,
McNair,
Walter
too.
Payton went to Jackson State. So, Randy Moss and Steve McNair. There's some other guys too, but I've always liked watching. I still call it Division II. I don't give a shit what the hell it's called these days. But I still watch a lot of Division II games. There's a lot of talent on a lot of those teams, and you never know. You see guys like McNair had a pretty damn good NFL career. I watched a lot of his games in college. I thought he was
good.
A very good quarterback.
I liked McNair a lot too. Jay will vouch for that I was a big McNair. Me and him were both big McNair guys too.
Yeah.
And some of those, scrambling and just on the run, just tossing it 60 yards down the field on the run, like a cannon of an arm too. I think some people forget about that, and how strong his arm was and how far he could throw down the field. Desmond Howard, of course, he played wide receiver, but as a kick punt returner, that's kind of one of my favorite things too. Of course, someone you hate, Jay, goes to your Vikings. Someone I hate from the state of Florida, of the fucking U. But I am not going to complain when Devin Hester does what Devin Hester does.
Yes.
Screw it at that point. My team drafts you, you better fucking show up and play at that point.
My favorite Desmond Howard moment was when he did the Heisman pose, and then when Washington beat them in the Rose Bowl, that guy from Washington did the Heisman pose to make fun of him.
Yeah, that Bailey guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I don't like Desmond Howard. I think Desmond Howard's a douche. So.
Okay. He's still on my top 5.
No. I mean, as an announcer, Joe, I think he's a douche as an announcer. He was a really good player.
But of course, my number one guy is Deion. For similar reasons, for Matt, for Wally, I started, watching Florida State in the late 80s. My main reason why I started watching Florida State is my one side of my family is very sports oriented. Both sides are, but my one side, my mom's side, was really sports oriented. I had several cousins who went to D1 colleges for sports. My one cousin played baseball, and he actually played baseball for Florida State in the late 80s. And that's kind of when I started watching college football. It was probably 86-ish, 86 probably. So, I watched the University of Illinois, but, my cousin played baseball there. So I started trying to watch a lot of Florida State. And I'm a big defensive guy, of course. I'm a Bears fan. So, Deion just kind of caught my eye because, one, he's a great defensive player. But I just loved, the charisma and the
swagger. The swagger.
And that's like original swag right there.
Yes, it is.
And it's just, I don't know. He was kind of like, to me, is like, I watched pro wrestling at that time too. So, he was kind of like, ooh, we got a villain on the football field. I'm digging this shit. So, I just liked it. And he was definitely my favorite. When I was growing up, we used to, Wally knows where this park is.
Yes.
In PA, there's it's called Bethlehem Township Municipal Park. And there's basketball courts there. Me and my friends used to play every day, all day.
Me and Joe played there before.
They have softball fields. And in the outfield, on Friday and Saturday and Sundays, we used to go play tackle football pickup games. And I would rock out my headband, get my headband going. One of my good friends, Marcus, he would rock a headband as well. And we would do throwing kickoffs and all that stuff. And every team we played on, me and him would take turns. I would block for him. He would block for me. And we were every single time, they would always throw short because they knew me or my friend Marcus were going to take it to the house. That's all we cared about the whole day, was taking that shit to the house. It was fun. It's something different.
You do some high stepping.
Oh yeah.
High stepping for 20 yards.
I did that. I've done that before too, man. That was it, man. You did the high. If you like Deion, even if you didn't like Deion,
yeah. High stepping that shit. So the heavy. Oh yeah, it was great. People hated playing it. People thought we were being cocky, but at the same time, listen. I had a white shirt. I put FSU in the front. I spray painted FSU in the front. I put Sanders and a number 2 in the back, and I wore that T-shirt, cut off the sleeves every time we played, tackle football. It's like middle school, freshman, sophomore year in high school. It was just fun.
He was
back in the day when kids went to the season, they played.
He was amazing.
Football.
Yeah, he was amazing, and like I said, me and you like Florida State, but he's on Jay's list too. And even Jay said Deion was the shit.
One of the most electric players ever. I mean, top 3 of all time.
Zach, what was your top 5 again?
That was Watt from Wisconsin.
Did I hear North Dakota State? Great one there, Zachary.
Excuse me, no, not North Dakota. It was not a Bison. It was University of North Dakota. Thank you.
Okay.
While I was there, it's the Sioux. Now it's the something about birds, fighting birds. I don't know, fighting hawks, but I don't recognize that.
Jason, go ahead.
Number 5 on mine was Orlando Pace. I know it's kind of weird to put offensive lineman on there, but
he was the best offensive lineman I think I've ever seen. I'll give you that. So
yeah, I mean to finish 5th in the Heisman in '96 is just kind of crazy.
He was and I actually saw him play in a basketball game and dunk. So let's tie. Yeah, I got to see him play high school basketball. He played against Amherst and dunked on us. So it was pretty amazing.
Big man had hops.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I mean, he only gave up 1 sack his last 2 years. He won the Lombardi Trophy 2 straight years, won the Outland Trophy.
He was legit good, Jay, for sure. I think Walter Jones would be another. Like, he was a Florida State guy. He was really good too, but I think Pace was the best I've seen.
Yeah. Number 4, I don't like the guy, but Tim Tebow. I mean, he won the Heisman. He finished in the top 5 2 other times. Won the national.
He was a really good piece of shit.
Yeah, I mean, 88 touchdown passes, 57 rushing touchdowns.
That's the best way to put it, especially as a Florida State fan. He was a really good piece of shit.
3, we talked about Deion. Number 2, Barry Sanders. I think he had like 34 NCAA records by the time he was done playing. He really only had that 1 good year. If you look at his freshman and sophomore stats, I think he had like 800 yards combined. So
yeah,
he was sitting behind Thurman Thomas.
I felt like for me and Jay, it was Barry Sanders or Marshall Faulk. I felt like me and him, you were getting one or the other from us.
Yeah, I guess I'm sure Green Bay's kicking themselves for drafting Tony Mandrick over Barry Sanders in their second pick of the draft.
Good job, Packers.
Yeah, pretty much.
The Incredible Bulk.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, Barry Sanders is just phenomenal. I think he had 4 300-yard rushing games. That's just insane. And then number 1, Randy Moss. By far, he just stood out to me, watching college football for receivers. The only 2 guys I put on my honorable mention was Larry Fitzgerald and Megatron. Other than that, Peter Warrick was close to that list too. I'd probably put him on that list too.
Moss was the shit. Yeah. He was the fucking shit. So, like,
54 touchdowns in 2 seasons, over 3,500 yards. It's just crazy.
Yeah. For the rest of our lives, me and Joe can dream about if Randy Moss and Peter Warrick would have been the receivers at Florida State. That would have been the best wide receiver duo ever.
The what-if scenario.
Yes. They won a national title without him, so imagine if he had been there.
Just icing on top of the cake.
Moss was amazing. So I remember I was at Toledo. Like, I was attending Toledo University when Moss was at Marshall. And one of the kids that I was friends with was pissed at me because I was rooting for Marshall against Toledo in the like championship game. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "Randy Moss is on Marshall and he's a fucking beast, and he ended up with like 3 touchdowns and like 200 yards." And I'm like, I liked Randy Moss once he went to Florida State. I liked him. So wherever he ended up, other than Notre Dame or Ohio State, I was going to root for him probably. So he was really, really good, Jay. He was a beast. He was the best receiver I've ever seen, period. Both stages.
And then for him to go to your favorite football team was like a dream come true. That doesn't really happen.
Yes, I became a closet Vikings fan. Sorry to the other people on this podcast who don't like the Vikings. I became a closet Vikings fan, except for that 1 year But thankfully, their field goal kicker missed a field goal, and I didn't have to worry about the Vikings and the Broncos playing in the Super Bowl that year. So,
Gary Anderson, yeah.
yes, thank you, Gary Anderson, for shanking that field goal because the Broncos had no problems with the Dirty Birds that year. So, Zach, did you have any honorable mentions?
That's going to be Watt from Wisconsin.
What
Sticking
about
with
Ben
it?
Roethlisberger?
No.
Did you like him?
That's a never on that one.
No, I'll throw one honorable mention out there.
I actually have Big Ben on my honorable mention list. Big Ben was a fucking really good college quarterback. He played at a smaller school, but he was a fucking beast.
Yeah. I already mentioned Megatron on my honorable mentions, and we had kind of already talked about him briefly, but I had Russell Wilson on my honorable mentions as well.
I liked Russell Wilson for 1 year. I didn't like him at NC State, but when he went to Wisconsin, he was fine.
I mean, I liked him throughout his whole career, and he was always slept on because he was short, and people underestimated his arm strength, and, I mean, he proved he had mobility and just all-around good quarterback.
No, he was. Me and Joe it's hard to root for somebody from NC State. That's why I hate Phillip Rivers.
Oh, I like him too.
Jay, I meant to ask you earlier, Jay, which one of us, was it me or you, that came up with the Scam Newton nickname? I can't remember.
I just remember calling him that for a while. I don't know.
I don't remember it. Me and Jay have been calling him that for years. I just don't remember which one of us, because me and him have so many nicknames for so many people. I just can't remember which one of us actually started calling him Scam Newton first.
I can see you calling him Scam Newton first.
Jay too. As soon as that anything with money comes up, we usually jump on that person. So I don't know. I still think that calling what's his name Greg Oden Benjamin Button is our best one personally, but
yeah.
Do you have any throw some honorable mentions out, Jay?
Like I said, for receivers, I had Fitzgerald and Megatron. Running backs, I had Bo Jackson, Marshall Faulk, Ricky Williams.
Bo Jackson was sweet.
Ezekiel Elliott.
Ezekiel Elliott was really good too.
Corners, because I put whatever position I picked, I put honorable mentions. So for Deion's, I put Charles Woodson, Ed Reed, Sean Taylor, and Champ Bailey.
Good ones, yeah.
And quarterbacks, Vince Young, Peyton Manning, and Steve McNair. And then Orlando Pace, I kind of called it an oddball position, so I put Dominic Sue and Derek Thomas for defense.
All good picks.
I would say a lot of Peyton Manning's definitely on my honorable mentions for quarterbacks. He just couldn't beat Florida. So Steve Spurrier said you can't spell Citrus Bowl without UT, because Tennessee went to the Citrus Bowl every year because Florida beat them. So poor Peyton couldn't fucking beat Florida, damn it. That's probably why Woodson won the Heisman, because Peyton couldn't beat Florida.
Yeah,
so
probably.
I like Peyton Manning a lot. I was a big Peyton Manning guy too. So I didn't write a bunch of honorable mentions down. There's so many people. Ron Dane would be somebody for me too. He was good.
Yeah, everybody else that's honorable mention on my list has been talked about. I had Barry Sanders, Marshall Faulk. Well, I had Reggie Bush on my list. I know none of you probably did, but he did what he did in college football. So
I mean, Matt Leinart was good too. Matt Leinart. I mean, they blitzed Oklahoma that year. I mean, they were a really good team. So I have to throw out my and this is not to spite Jay. At times I'm a closet Michigan fan. My favorite Michigan player of all time is Denard Robinson. I loved him. So
yeah, he was pretty decent.
He was different. He was definitely different.
So I didn't like Michigan when I was really young, and then I realized that they played Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Penn State every year, and I realized, well, I don't like those three teams, so I'm rooting for Michigan at least 3 times every year.
You mean you didn't like Biaka Patuka? He was a good running back.
His one big game.
His one big game was against the Buckeyes.
Ohio State forgot to tackle for a game.
I always just like saying that dude's name, Jim Biaka Patuka. It's just weird to me. That's like saying his name.
I'm trying to think if there were any other. I mean, what's those some of those guys that played for Miami were really good, even though I hate them. Dorsey was good, and I did like Edgerrin James. I will admit that I liked Cash Money when he went to Miami.
What about Reggie Wayne?
I liked him better once he was out of
Devin
college.
Hester?
Joe liked him, but I didn't.
You like Kellen Winslow Jr., didn't you, Matt? Or
yeah.
All right. Any other honorable mentions from anybody?
The Rock.
Oh, God. Stop it.
Bill Goldberg.
I'm just doing that for shits and giggles. Roman
Fuck that shit.
Reigns.
Yeah.
Ron Simmons. Let's throw Ron Simmons out there.
Ron Simmons.
Right.
Let's go.
Ron Simmons actually deserves to be talked about because he was actually legitimately good.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. Out of all those former.
On all the rest of them, like
just
the
said.
rest of them are kind of nothing. I think The Rock had one sack that mattered. So,
I'm sure some of you guys have some games you want to talk about, right?
yes, for sure.
Take it away.
I think that I would assume all four of us are going to have a certain game on there. So
Texas
why don't
USC, of course.
we talk about that one last because it's on all four of us. I have one game written down that I'm going to guess that Joe also has written down. It would be the Florida State versus the Auburn National Championship game. I have that.
I don't have that game.
Really?
Nope.
That game I was actually at J-Bone's house watching that game.
Of course, that game was that was a good game. It was back and forth, and so we were able to do what we needed to do late in the game.
Kermit Whitfield won that game on that kickoff return. Everything changed on that. That's the greatest kickoff return in Florida State history.
My FSU game was 94.
Okay.
Was Bowden versus Osborne, Florida State versus Nebraska, because that was like a very defensive. Once again, I'm a defensive guy. That was a very defensive game.
And our kicker actually made the kick. Our kicker actually made the kick that mattered.
Yeah. So that was kind of two legendary coaches going head to head in a big game, and we came on top. But it was very defensive. You know, I was just really into that at that time. I still am. But that's my Florida State game that I had in my.
I still go back and watch highlights from the champion national title game. So, but that kickoff return, they went for it on that fourth down in the second quarter, and that like the momentum swung the first time when they went for it on that. Or they faked the punt. They faked the punt in the second quarter, and the momentum kind of swung, and then when the kickoff return happened. So the other game I have on here, I also have the Oklahoma versus Boise State hook and ladder game.
The Statue of Liberty.
That's on mine too.
That
game
same
for mine.
Changed everything for the small school. Boise State got on the map that night, and we saw some of the greatest trick plays in college football history all in the same game.
Yeah.
So the Statue of Liberty play is fabulous. So
that's like my honorable mention game right there. I had them. I was going to put them in my main list here, but I'm like, I kind of a little bit outside. But
that game was so
sniffing.
great. Plus, I hate Oklahoma, so anytime Oklahoma loses to somebody in a bowl game, it's like a good thing.
Choklahoma.
There we go. Thank you, Jay. So
my upset game I had on my list was Appalachian State beating Michigan in 2007. Because I think Appalachian State was like a huge underdog. Yeah,
make sure I tell Mickey. I'll have to make sure I tell Mickey about that. Mickey's going to be real happy about that. So
well, good, because he has Walter Payton, I guess, very low on his fucking list of all time great running backs.
Bitch.
Yeah, so he could have that one. Yeah.
Stretch, what do you got?
Some of mine have been talked about ad nauseum already. The Texas USC national title game, that probably, like I said, would be my number one.
We'll get to that momentarily.
I did have the Oklahoma and the Boise State one. That was, again, one of my first exposures to a small school, and I didn't really know that there were schools below the first set of divisions and conferences. Again, it amazed me. I would always try and catch the Boise State games after that. And I was young, so I was amazed by a team with a blue field for some reason. So I was like, what the hell?
I've always kind of liked Boise.
It's cool.
I've always kind of liked Boise State, too. Ever since that game, I've kind of felt like I've kind of liked them, too.
Yeah. And the game y'all were just talking about, too, the App State-Michigan game was a good one that I watched when I was younger, too, and it just was back and forth, and then the upset at the end was amazing.
Jay, is the App State-Michigan game on your list?
Yeah, that was on my list.
Sweet. Of course it was.
Yeah, I had that one. We're going to talk later about the other one. I had Oklahoma Boise, and then I had obviously the 2002 national championship game with Ohio State Miami.
That is a really good game, other than the flag 15 minutes after the play's over. But.
Yeah, but I mean that game was just the talent. I think there's 28 people get drafted in those two teams. Yeah. It's just crazy.
I actually did not watch that game because that was a blow up the stadium game for me. So I passed on that one. I was on the phone with somebody and they were like, "Oh, this just happened," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay." Still not turning it on.
Keep going, J-Bone. Ignore him.
So no, that's those are just I just had 4 of them. So
that Miami Ohio State game appears on a lot of lists of top like 5 or 6 games of all time. So I'm sure that game is really, really good because a lot of people have it on their list. So.
I had 2 other games on my list too. One of these is a Bama game because I just fucking hate them so much. But once again, Devin Hester did this in the pros against the Giants. But the missed field goal that was returned 100 yards for a touchdown against Bama, Auburn against Bama, that was great.
That won the game for him.
Yep.
Put them in the national title game against Florida State.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I'd rather have them than fucking Bama at that
point. I would too.
The other game too wasn't a defensive game, but it was kind of I'm not sure if it was a coming out party for him, but he had a great performance, and that was Baylor versus TCU. RG3's big game against TCU, and that was like 61-58.
Yeah.
That was a crazy shootout game. That was just a game that was very back and forth, and that was like probably the only like real offensive game I have on my list because I just had fun watching that.
The defense is optional in the Big 12.
I was just going to say the defense optional Big 12. Jay stole my thunder on that one, damn it. That's hilarious.
A team that has defense, who the hell knows when that'll be, 3004, fucking some shit like that.
Zach, what was your favorite college football game?
It's maybe a game with a Watt and Wisconsin. I can't really remember the details. It's been too long.
Notre Dame, something with Notre Dame losing, I would hope.
Sure.
Anytime Notre Dame loses, it's a celebration.
I second that.
And Jay probably thirds it. So.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to take my one pot shot at Notre Dame on here. That team gets all these, like, everybody loves them. That team hasn't done jack shit for like 20 years other than get plastered in 2 national title games. So they fucking
every year they start off 3-0, they get ranked in the top 10, and then they nosedive every year.
And then they lose to Army.
Yeah, that doesn't help things.
Now we can talk about the USC because that was the best game I've ever seen. So that the biggest stage, the 2 best teams by far that year. Like Big Show Pat tries to throw Penn State in that mix. Penn State wasn't in that fucking mix. So Penn State was not as good. Florida State almost beat Penn State in the bowl game that year, and Florida State was not even great that year. Florida State snuck in, won the ACC title, and I think had 4 losses. And that was the Penn State bowl game where nobody can make an extra point in the overtime. So, so that Penn State team was not that good. If they're struggling against an 8-4 Florida State team, they did not belong. We got to see that was the best game on the biggest stage. That was the 2 best teams. That was the 2 best players in college football that year. And everything about that game is great. It's great to watch Pete Carroll make a terrible decision at the end of a game and hand the ball off to Len Whale White instead of Reggie Bush. So, unfortunately, that preceded him into the pros, and he made bad decisions in big games in the pros also, Pete Carroll. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's fine because I hate that guy.
So, Vince Young, that's why Vince Young was number 1 on my list because he showed out in that game on the biggest stage. He was the best player in that game. No disrespect to anybody else, but Vince Young was the best player in that game, the best game I've ever seen.
I mean, he beat the best. He beat probably the best, quarterback running back tandem in college football that year as well.
Well, for 2 years at least, that was the best college football quarterback in tandem for 2 years, I think.
Well, yeah, but I mean that specific year, and he went against the best offensive tandem in college football, and took it to him.
What do you think? What do you remember about that game, Jay?
Oh, this was a great game. Like you said, Vince Young was doing whatever he wanted to their defense, and USC always has a pretty stout defense too, so it wasn't like he was doing it against, a bunch of nobodies. So.
And they were down 10 points, I think, with 6 minutes left.
Yep.
So Vince Young worked his magic on the biggest stage. That's when you want the player. That's when you need your best players to make that, get results. And that's why.
Like you said, you knew he was going to run the ball at the end, and they still couldn't stop him. That's
right.
So Reggie stole VY's Heisman that year, and then they took it away and they didn't give it to anybody. So nobody won the Heisman that year because they don't give it to second place. Nobody gets it.
Vacant strikes again.
Yes. Vacant won another title. So Vacant's won more wrestling titles than anybody in history. So you got to watch out for that sneaky Vacant.
All right. Any final thoughts on college football before we transition to the second half of the show?
No, I'm good.
I was telling Joe earlier, and me and Jay have talked about this. It's kind of changed, but there was definitely a period of time from probably about 1993 till about late 2000s where Ohio State and Florida State were just putting players in the NFL year after year after year. They were powerhouse schools. Unfortunately, Florida State has kind of gone south a little bit on that one. The Buckeyes haven't, but even Texas to some degree, all the schools we've talked about are schools that put a lot of players in the NFL. So
yeah, of course, absolutely.
All right. We will be moving on now. Let's segue over to our scenario of the week. The rules are, I do give the topic ahead of time. There will be no discussion amongst the Smarks, no collusion. There can be no repeated answers, so you can answer as a backup. Oh, Joe is ready.
Joe is ready.
There are always some automatic losses, although not too much this week. There are some automatic winners. I do have one in mind this week. So let's get to it. The scenario is, it is 2021, and those that survived Corona are living in the remains of an entertainment-starved world. But there's a shining messiah in the distant, the Summer Olympics. In order to bring hope and order back to this desolate land, they are casting a wide net on the definition of sport. For example, they have selected beer pong to come into play. The country has improbably selected you to lead the team. I say improbably because hardly anyone on this podcast drinks except me. Anyway, going back to it, it is up to you to pick the best collegiate athlete to bring back the gold and glory to this country. Wally, you are the champion. You get the advantage. You may go first.
I'm taking the greatest party animal college football player ever, Mr. Rob Gronkowski.
Took my answer.
That dude knows. We all know that guy can throw down. He throws parties by himself. So he hosts parties. So I have to take Gronk. He's one of my favorite players of all time to boot. So I have to go with Gronk on this one. So
that is a really, really good answer. All right, since you are a special guest, Coach Joe, you may go next.
I'm going to clear my throat here for this one. So, since you put out that scenario of doomsday as shit, I, created my time machine. All right? Hold on. Just wait a moment. Let me get my voice here ready. Even though he was born in Florida, he went to Florida State. All right. This man could party. I know he could party. He hung out with Lee Corso back in the day. All right. And in the 80s, what's going to happen? I'm going to time machine and pick this man up because he's going to be wearing his bell-bottom jeans, his cowboy shirt, his cowboy hat. We're going to hop in that goddamn early 80s Pontiac Trans Am with the T-tops. All right. We're going to go cruising to the Olympics. I'm going to put my cowboy hat on, and we're going to play some beer pong with good old Burt Reynolds.
All right.
All right.
Nice, Joe.
That's
nice.
a good one.
I
When we're
like
done
that.
with the Olympics, winning that gold medal, we're going to hop back in that Firebird Trans Am, and we're going to hop on the CB, Breaker 19. It's time to get the Cannonball Run going. Go to the store, pack up that back of that fucking Trans Am with some goddamn beer, and we're going to head off to that Cannonball Run.
I knew
That's
it.
my guy.
Joe was
Mr.
going to
fucking
crash the
Burt
party.
Reynolds.
That's really, really good.
Burt Reynolds. The man can party back in the day.
Good one,
All right,
Joe.
that's
That's
guy.
a good one. All right, I like it. Okay, J-Bone, can you recover from your answer being stolen?
He
I was
already
trying
knew
to
his
look back.
answer was going to be stolen.
Yeah. I was trying to look back in time and trying to think of some big party animals back in the day that got maybe in trouble with the law and stuff. And one guy came to mind.
Aaron Hernandez?
Oh,
Whoa, that's going way too far.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Todd Marijuanovich.
Oh,
Todd Marinovich.
Todd Marijuana.
Dude was a party animal.
Nice, Jay. Nice.
That's a good one, Jay.
That's
good.
really good. These have all been really good answers so far, Zach. No pressure, Eli.
yeah, right.
Yep,
Shit.
let's go ahead.
So in doing some research, I toyed with the idea of doing an entire team or anybody with the current Rutgers football team, because they, for the sheer sake of having a party on campus, they had most of the entire football team and student athletes in one central place and caused a COVID-19 outbreak on their campus because they wanted to party so bad. So I was going to go with, somebody from that team or just, and, the entire team as a whole, but I feel like that's kind of a cop-out answer. So as a singular person, I'll go ahead and pick, we kind of talked about him already. I'll go with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, since he does kind of count from being in the University of Miami.
He does.
All right.
He's the most electrifying man in sports entertainment and the highest paid actor of all time. So I would say he's been to a few parties in his day and thrown down with the best of them. So I would think he'd be a good enough person to have on my team.
Zach, you have your work cut out for
Yeah,
you. This is the
tough
best.
one.
This is the best answers. Like, this is the first time everybody's had really good answers.
Yeah, you've all given me bangers, so I need Stretch to tack somebody for me. Come on. You're the one who does this, so I need you to help me out here a little bit. Tack.
I like Joe. Joe, Doug. I feel like Joe. Mine was good, but mine was easy. Joe. I like Joe's answer. I was not even thinking about Joe's at all.
Like Wally said, they're all really, really good, and I feel like Joe's is trumping everybody at the moment. I can't say a bad thing about Joe's.
Okay, I was gonna say you need to. All right, fine. Let me think for a second here. God damn it! I was gonna cheat and take Watt from Wisconsin. I'm pretty sure they still play beer pong anyway, so bringing those guys.
That's a good answer, and you were hinting at that all night too.
Right?
Yeah,
and we
should've
didn't
known.
even pick up on it.
Yeah,
So
that was the instant win because I've been dropping it all night.
I was just thinking about the Subway commercials with them. Every time you said Watt, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna get my foot long from
Right.
Subway.
Subway can sponsor us if they'd
I
like.
hope.
All right, we're gonna give it to Coach Joe. I got it.
That was
Congratulations.
really good, Joe. I knew Joe would do that. I knew. So when Joe comes back on again, he'll be the champion.
He'll be the
at
champion.
That point.
In the meantime, we'll have a second belt going in the meantime, so we don't have an absentee,
Like
title.
WWE has the honorary wing, the celebrity wing
Yeah.
or whatever.
You're right next to Drew Carey.
And
There we
he even went with an FSU alum, even. So that was
Yeah,
priceless.
bonus
That was
points for
fabulous,
his
Joe.
picking his college. No, that was really good. I mean, if the answer is Burt Reynolds, turns out you're probably going to win most things. So,
Yeah. Burt Reynolds
This
or
was
Chuck Norris is an instant win.
yep.
This was a really good scenario of the week, Zach. I said this is the best 4 answers I think you've
Oh,
gotten so far.
Absolutely.
So good
I
job
liked
to
it.
everybody. This one, I thought this one was a really good one.
I did have a backup one. I knew
Let's
no
hear
one was going to pick Burt Reynolds, but I had a backup one, and it was kind of like on stretches thing with the whole team. And I was going to pick that, shitty, team that got in trouble in the 90s, the Miami Hurricanes, who always, partied and got in trouble and doing drugs and this, that, and the next thing. They were very close. to
With
being my
Luke-
second pick.
Luke from the 2 Live Crew.
Exactly. I mean, you're hanging out with 2 Live Crew and shit happens.
All right. That was really, really fun. I like that a lot. So
now it's our favorites, and this is my favorite part of the week.
Yep. It's for Wally's favorite part. It is time for the Wednesday War wrap-up. Let's go ahead and start with NXT. Who wants to take it away this week?
Jay, didn't you go to Jay or somebody last week and I stole? So let Jay go.
Yeah.
It don't matter. I don't care.
Jay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jay.
What, NXT?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it was all right. I was a little disappointed with the first match with Dakota Kai and Rhea Ripley. Obviously, I wanted Rhea to win, but it was an all right match. The second match wasn't too bad. The Bronson Reed and Shane Thorne match I thought it was a pretty decent match.
Yeah.
Shane Thorne looked strong in that match.
He did.
Yeah, I liked down. Both guys looked strong. I actually have that written down. Then the triple threat match, I like Damian Priest. So I was kind of happy he won. To me, I think all the triple threat matches have been pretty good so far.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Then Keith Lee, Cameron Grimes match was okay, I guess.
Enough said.
Yeah.
You said Keith Lee. Enough said.
Then like I said, the tag match at the end I thought was kind of corny, and then the whole ending with Adam Cole and thing was I thought it was kind of corny too. So I was a little disappointed.
It was definitely corny.
It definitely showed a lot more like main roster. I felt like it transitioned a lot more main roster booking into NXT. So I feel like Vince has his hand in that stew now.
100%. There's no way Triple H does that bullshit.
There's no way Adam Cole goes from being a 400-day plus champion to feuding with a punter, and Triple H okays that.
Yeah,
and
Triple H is not okay in that one.
And the fact that the main event tag match, like we were all kind of hoping Undisputed would win the belts, but it was all kind of used just as a vehicle for that match to be built towards. So the main event honestly was, a wash.
That was crummy. They did those, even though Imperium is wishy-washy, they all deserved better than that. They all deserved for that match to matter, not be the secondary story. I wanted that to be the primary. Guys, Zach was here. I did not want the Pat McAfee. Adam Cole is one of my favorite wrestlers. I did not want this to happen. I did not want this garbage to happen. So I am so afraid that McAfee's going to win now, just because everybody will think it's funny, that I don't want this match to happen. Because I am so afraid that, Zach has said to me 3 times now, which wrestler's sister is Pat McAfee sleeping with to get a spot on the NXT TakeOver 30.
I think he has compromising pictures of Vince McMahon, probably.
Like, this is TakeOver 30, so this is kind of a monumental one. So unless Pat McAfee is Shawn Michaels and nobody knows it, then what the fuck is he doing in this match?
This is another Mike Tyson, Lawrence Taylor, fucking Floyd Mayweather. Can I keep going on? Just bullshit. Celebrity.
But the ones you've already named were big money draws. Like those are decent names. Like what are you planning
Pat McAfee, what is he, Hunter? A podcast guy?
Yeah, pretty much. He's on ESPN a whole lot. So that's what I think the WWE wants the main event draw.
The punter is the least cool guy on the whole football team. So
the thing with Pat McAfee though is like his podcast and the shit he says on ESPN shows like First Take and Get Up is he says he's been on NFL Network too. He says some of that most outlandish bullshit. Yeah. And he some of his stuff is legit, but some of his stuff is so far out in fucking left field, like past the left field fence. 6 blocks down, make a fucking left, then make another right, get to the subway.
He really is.
That's like really how that's how his shit is.
Yeah.
And the way he talks, when he had Adam Cole on that podcast, I knew it was a fucking work. I need to listen to the
most of you guys did. Most of you guys did. So
I didn't listen to the AAA bullshit with him and McAfee. I went back and searched some of the shit between McAfee and Adam Cole, and I don't know if some of it's legit, but some of it definitely seems like it's a real fucking work. And then on that show, when I saw they showed him backstage, and I'm like, okay, so the main event's this tag team match. Pat McAfee's there. I'm like, we're going to have a clusterfuck of a fucking ending, and this is going to suck ass. And exactly what happens.
Like, he was fine for like 5 or 10 minutes, but then he was trying too hard. He was just being a dick intentionally. And when Beth Phoenix left the announce booth. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? He hasn't even really done anything that terrible yet. So when Beth Phoenix left the announce booth, I'm like, okay, this is 100% about these guys. And then he turned into a dick where he was like trying too hard to be a dick. And if you're good at being a dick, you don't have to try too hard. And McAfee was like trying too hard.
Keep in mind too, we didn't just see him for the tag match. He was there for the Tegan Knox match too before that. Yeah. So we had to deal for the last like 35 minutes of the show. We had him on commentary.
Yep.
I think Cole deserves better than this.
Oh, he deserves
disappointed.
Way better.
I'm disappointed in why they had Pat McAfee on and they still got trashed in the ratings. So did Pat McAfee being on this show really fucking matter? No. So
but again, though, he either has to be the best kept secret in wrestling, or Cole's going to have to carry this, which he always does anyway. But it's going to be a 5-minute. Either it's a 5-minute squash match where the punter wins, or it's a 5-minute squash match where Cole wins, and it's just the Vegas odds. Either way, I don't want to see that in a takeover. That's at best a middle segment on a Wednesday night show. Unless
Adam Cole can Bret Hart and Tom McGee this into some passable match with some guy who's not great in the ring at all.
It's a lose-lose situation.
It really is. So we have a takeover coming up right now that's a marquee one, and we have Adam Cole and Pat McAfee, which I'm worried about, and we have Fat Ass and Killer Kross, which I'm extremely worried about. Those are two of the matches on this card. So that ladder match better be better than the last ladder match we saw for the North American title, or this pay-per-view might be interesting because Io and Dakota Kai is probably going to be fine. Dakota Kai is she's good as a heel. So, and whatever other match they throw in will probably work. But
they're building towards Swerve for the Cruiserweight title, which I think would be a good push.
Because I like Swerve's house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt bad for Breezango too. They're they kind of just have become background furniture now.
Yep.
Yes. Let's get kidnapped.
Kidnapped and then immediately beat up again. It was just such a weird segment. And then I rewatched I watched NXT again today, and I have to say the Loomis angle on rewatching it actually feels like a work.
It is. I feel like it is.
So is he their mystery third person showing up on tonight's show?
I mean,
or they can bring him back later, because it's not a real injury in my opinion after rewatching it.
No offense to the Loomis people on here. I want Tommaso Ciampa in that match. So I'm sorry, guys. I know you like Loomis, but
I like Ciampa better.
I want Ciampa in that match. If Ciampa's not the mystery guy, I'm going to be pissed.
I feel like Loomis is either the mystery person in the triple threat, or he's going to factor into the actual ladder match somehow and choke somebody out. They're about to climb the ladder or something, he's going to slither in. And choke them out.
That's better.
Yeah.
I think that he got hurt. I don't think it's like months out hurt. No. I think Loomis got hurt and it's precautionary. So instead of sticking him in a ladder match where he could get hurt again, something like what Eli said is probably going to happen, and then there's less chance of him getting hurt again. Would you rather have him, who's hobbling a little bit, or Tommaso Ciampa, who's chomping at the bit to be in a match?
Yeah. So tweeting how pissed he is that he's not being used.
So we can do AEW now. I think we've done enough.
All right, AEW. I mean, let's just start off. I guess the 12-man tag was actually not the garbage fire I thought it was going to be. Actually ended up being a pretty good match.
It was better than the 10-man.
There's chemistry with some of those guys. So we got to see a super kick party for the first time in AEW. 5 motherfuckers got super kicked. I was like, Zach, this is a super kick party.
Yep. Yeah. It was a good time.
It was a weird thing when the FTR left. I didn't think Hangman was going to come back, so it was kind of weird that Hangman came back. But then we got to see a bunch of cool spots and stuff. So Hangman's a really good wrestler. I just wish he would change his gimmick just a smidge, and I'd be okay with it. He when you had too many guys in that match that are top 10, top 15 guys in the world for that match to end up being a train wreck. There was just too many good wrestlers in that match to ruin it.
None of which are the
Dark Order. So
they're just there to be jobbers, so that's fine.
Change that statement.
Okay, six of the best wrestlers in the world were on one side of that. I'm sorry.
Hey, just for the tease of the new faction. That's all.
The new 4 Horsemen.
The Hangman going out there. That's all.
The debate was awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, the debate was awesome. I'd like to talk a lot about that.
Both ends of the debate. Jericho was priceless. When he called him a ginger jackass, that was priceless. Like, you can't pay for
Big
stuff
pimple
like
on
that.
his ass that he's going to pop
Yes.
next week.
My favorite had to be Orange Cassidy's Rain Man-esque answer to global warming and climate change.
I actually wrote some notes on that.
Zachary?
Just if you just want to give me a second, I actually wrote some notes. Give me 1 second. Sea levels continue to rise at about the rate of 1/8 of an inch per year. A higher sea level enables storm surges to push further inland and thereby increase the extremely dangerous flooding of coastal communities. A failure to minimize our fossil fuel use and reduction of carbon emissions can be devastating to the estimated 40% of the population of the United States that lives in these coastal communities, and globally, 8 of the world's largest 10 cities. Thank you.
Great.
No, it's so good. That's honestly my favorite promo I've seen since Jericho and KO were doing their stuff together. It's top-notch stuff.
There was that, how he demonstrated his comedic chops, and then how his intensity at the end, where he's like, this is look into the face of the guy who's going to beat you next week. Like, you don't know the intensity that he had there. Like, that was kind of new for a lot of people who don't know much about Orange Cassidy.
Which is a worry that Wally has expressed in the past, maybe even on the show. I couldn't be sure, but he said that, the idea of Orange even having a shot at the belt doesn't matter because he doesn't care. This is showing that he actually does care and can care. This is exactly what he needed to do to put aside those fears that people have.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to be. This gimmick of his is good. It works extremely well in the indie circuit. Him doing it on national television, that's what he needs to do to tweak his gimmick to make him more believable, so people can buy into him more, and not just like not say anything and keep doing the whole hands in the jeans, in his jean pockets. We get all of that, but this is the part where that kind of starts to separate him to become more of a stop being a mid-carder, stop being in the tag teams, and let me show what I can do on the mic. So then now you can put me in programs with Jericho or with somebody else, so I can actually fight for a goddamn title now.
Right.
So this is the transition he really, really needs to take. We keep doing it.
We did get to see Sammy Guevara legitimately bust Matt Hardy open straight up.
After a promo,
go ahead.
After a promo in which Matt Hardy claimed to be unkillable.
Yes.
Wearing a shirt that says "You cannot kill Matt Hardy" or something like that, or Matt Hardy does that.
He got hit with the chair, laid on the table, and all of a sudden there's a huge puddle of blood on the table.
Biggest puddle of blood.
It created a great visual. I mean, after Sammy did the 630 and had the blood on him and everything, it was a cool visual, and it's going to be great in a promo package to build towards the match. But yeah, Sammy could have eased up on that toss a bit.
Yeah.
Well, they said he picked up the wrong chair.
Oh, shit.
So he threw the wrong chair.
Overexcited. Like, he just took everything into the wrong direction.
Right.
I mean, I know everybody other than Jay is going to be disappointed that Britt Baker's not fighting Sheeta at All Out. Unfortunately, Jay's happy she's fighting Big Swole, but I know Jay was celebrating it. I know Jay was celebrating at his house when he found that out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That being said, I would like to see more of Reba, though. I mean, she actually showed some chops in the ring.
Reba clearly is a wrestler disguised as not being a wrestler.
Well, she worked in TNA as Rebel, and the thing I didn't like is that Taz the entire match was saying, "Hey, she's no like newbie. She's got over 100 matches under her belt." But the entire time she's acting like she doesn't know what the hell she's doing in the match.
Shut up, Taz.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going up to attempt a moonsault, whether you make it or not, you know what the fuck you're doing.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think anyone told Taz what was really happening in that match. And he was like, oh, just talking great things about it.
I think there's multiple times where nobody tells Taz what's going on. I'm starting to think that. So, and if they do, Taz is like, FTW, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can we touch on how great the check-ins to MJF's campaign have been too?
Yes.
MJF is the best mic guy there is. As much as I like Kevin Owens, if you give me one choice, I want MJF on the mic every fucking week right now.
I mean,
favorite part of that
film
promo
was horrible. You're fired.
Yeah. 125-pound emo kid.
Yes.
Describing
Like,
Darby.
What if Darby Allin wins?
Yeah.
that clip you sent me, Eli, of him with Kurt Hawkins is fabulous.
Isn't it?
So,
basically ragging on Kurt Hawkins and Scott D'Amore.
And even the one that Jay sent me with him cooking mushrooms with Brandy Rhodes is hilarious because he's such a fucking dick to her.
Yeah.
He's the best mic guy in the business right now, in my opinion. So no
Absolutely.
slight to Kevin Owens, but MJF, he needs to win. We need to stop with these. He looked good in a loss. MJF needs to. I'm pretty sure Orange Cassidy is going to win this week, especially because I now see Jericho saying he's going to go on tour with Fozzy despite COVID.
He just had a concert yesterday with them with no social distancing and no masks.
Oh, great.
So Orange Cassidy's going to win. It's a whatever. He owes him $7,000 for the jacket match, and now they've banned everybody from ringside too.
Cassidy's going to win.
So speaking of looking good in a loss, we can talk about Darby and Moxley.
That match was good, but Darby once again.
Yep.
Yes, Darby looked good in a loss again.
Well, we all kind of knew going into that Darby wasn't going to win. As soon as he booked that match and you have MJF campaigning so strongly against Dictator John, like with that program, MJF's crafting that program by hand right now. And if you throw Darby in there as a surprise championship win, like it's just going to ruin everything. So we knew Darby wasn't going to win that at all.
That's like a WWE tactic to me, kind of. So.
Yeah, overall, just a solid match. Actually, it's probably my favorite match of the week.
Mine too.
For mine, so.
This one's tough. I will say the Cody Broski match was irrelevant in my opinion. Yeah. I could have cared less.
I don't have any notes on it. That's how it was fine. Just
Cody's Cody. We all know Cody can wrestle. I don't think Matt Cardona or Broski, whatever, got anything good or bad came out of that for him. So I was just
It was just a decent match. It was a good average match, nothing special. Yep. They showcased Matt what he can do, some new stuff that he wasn't able to do in WWE, and they'll just continue to go down that road.
I don't know where they go with him. So
I will say for that match too, Alex Reynolds and John Silver, they did make them look decent out of for being the lackeys of the Dark Order. They did give them some spots of offense. So I will shout that out because we do crap on the Dark Order a lot here, but I'd say those two guys are decent.
I just don't like the Dark Order as a whole entity. There are pieces of it that are passable.
There's 20 of them, so
yes, it's the New Age NWO,
right?
Because we have 20 guys in it.
Is it gonna split into the Dark Order Wolfpack soon?
I mean, I hope not.
Because one of the breakoffs will be with damn, I forgot his name.
They're gonna bring in Dennis Rodman soon.
Yeah. No. Oh God, can't remember his name. The guy they're courting, who's like,
Cabana.
Boom boom.
Cabana. Cabana will be the the leader of the other faction
of the babyface version of them.
Yep. Yeah.
Every
light order.
Every time we go to anywhere and I see Boom Boom sauce, I'm like, Nicole, there's the Colt Cabana sauce.
Yep. Nice.
It's Boom Boom time.
Jay Bone, do you have any words for AEW?
Sometimes it is, Joe.
No, I liked all the promos that we just discussed. I thought all of them were really good. Like I said, I thought the Moxley match was the match of the night between the two federations.
I don't know what I'm still thinking. I don't know what my match of the night was.
Also, we did see Proud and Powerful deface a poor minivan.
Yes, that was great. You will apologize to my mother on speakerphone.
On speakerphone.
That whole segment was great.
So that's some good shit there. We're gonna get a good match, hopefully all out between them. So there's going to be some kind of stipulation. I'm sure it's going to be for Trent's mom's van.
Sue's van on a pole match.
Yes.
All right, so let's vote it out.
I don't think this one's going to be tough.
Coach, what did you show the week? AEW. All right.
Absolutely.
J-Bone.
AEW.
Wally.
AEW.
Stretch.
I don't have my broom, but I think it's going to be a sweep. Go with AEW.
I think it's going to be a sweep.
It is a sweep. AEW as well. So AEW takes it. They're up now, 3-1, I believe.
Yes. So. So now, of the 4 weeks, only 1 week has not been a clean sweep so far.
Yes.
One way or the other. So, and NXT didn't help themselves with the Adam Cole, Pat McAfee bullshit. So they
which is a shame because wrestling wise, they put on some decent matches. It's just overall they just couldn't match what AEW put together last week. So it's just.
Well, they went for the mainstream audience. They're unfortunately they're finally doing what I've never wanted them to do. They're trying to appeal to the mainstream. They're trying to get the stupid fans to watch. So Pat McAfee is how you get the stupid fans to watch, and I don't want the stupid fans watching NXT. I don't. So I want NXT to be NXT. I want it to be its own entity still and not cross over into doing dumb shit like they do on the main roster every week. And now they said, oh, well, let's dip our foot in that puddle and see what happens.
Right.
I mean, fingers crossed. Maybe they can somehow pull all this together and it'll work out. But they have to convince me. So,
like you said, unless Pat McAfee is the best kept secret in wrestling.
Yeah.
He's either the best kept secret or he's fucking the next Dave Arquette. That's what it is. It's either or.
Lord.
And one of those is really bad. So.
Yeah.
And like I said, because I'm worried about the match that's going to be the main event there, and I believe Coach Joe wholeheartedly that Cross can wrestle. But wrestling in some other federation and wrestling in NXT or a WWE product is not the same thing. So they're putting the training wheels back on Cross, I think. So we are going to see a shit show in that main event, I believe, at this point. I believe that match is not going to be great, and I believe there may even be a shit finish. If that match is the main event and something cool doesn't happen after the shit finish, then I don't know what to say. Like, I want to like Karrion Kross. I've said it on here 5 times. I want to like the guy, but I need to see something out of him before I like the guy. Anybody can have a cool entrance and come out and have a pretty valet with him and cut a decent promo from time to time. I like guys because of what they do in the ring ultimately, and they're still not giving us enough. And Keith Lee can wrestle fine. He's average, maybe a smidge above average, but he can't do anything else good. So your 2 matches that you're selling everybody on, I'm worried about. I'm very worried about. And it's just, we're going to watch it, but TakeOver 30 is supposed to be a big deal, and I'm just worried that it's not going to be.
I mean, if you liken it back, the last time they did a TakeOver with a number in the title was TakeOver 25, and that was Gargano and Cole main eventing.
Yep.
So
and
this is shaping up to be not nearly as great as that.
No.
So once again, maybe they're just holding back on Cross, and we can only hope. But WWE doesn't tend to spring that kind of stuff on us. They tend to build to it. So I don't know where that's going. So the ladder match better be the match of the year. They need the ladder match to be match of the year type stuff to save this event, I think.
Oh, definitely. As always, we really appreciate when people like, comment, and subscribe. So I think J-Bone, as always, we have an incentive to a select person. You don't actually get the prize. But what is J-Bone giving away this week?
This fancy wooden back scratcher.
Ooh, all right. Quality.
Jesus.
Wait a minute.
Uh-oh.
Besides your back, where else have you been using that to scratch?
Comment.
You plead the fifth, don't you? All right.
Well, this day and age, that's the smart way to play it.
Right.
You're going to get a special back scratcher there, ladies and gentlemen.
Special. Well, let's cap it off this week. I need a prognostication from the prognosticator, please.
Well, I kind of touched on it before, thinking that they're keeping Loomis off of TV for a reason, making this injury out to be more than what it actually is. I feel like he's either going to be the mystery person in this third triple threat, or he's going to factor into that ladder match somehow. He's going to slither in and choke out somebody maybe going up for the title on the ladder, and he's going to pop in and choke them out, and they'll fall off, and then we'll get somebody else winning. But he's going to be factoring into that match somehow.
I like it. Makes sense.
We want Gargano, Ciampa, and Finn in this match. If those 3 guys are in this match, then that match just went from a B+ to an A- A+. So we need those 3 guys in this match.
Well, luckily we have the road for Gargano and Finn. We just need Ciampa to show up and show up big tonight here. So
Eli or Stretch, I still do think that your prediction with a couple of women becoming a tag team, me and Coach Joe really believe that somewhere down the road that prediction is going to happen.
Well, I mean, now that one of them is indefinitely suspended, they're going to bring her back whenever we least expect it and don't want it. So
Eli Stretch never wants it. So
you know me. She could disappear from wrestling television forever and I wouldn't notice.
All right. Let's wrap it up
and
here.
To believe that I'm not going to name names because there is a friend of ours at one point in time that told me that if he had to pick between Bailey and Nia Jax, he would take Nia Jax, no questions asked. So, he's not on this podcast, and I don't really talk to him currently, but he did say that, and Zach was like, you might as well just pick a guy at that point. So
yeah. All right. Coach Joe, thanks for joining us. Please come back sometime. You do challenge. You do take away the best beard from me when you show up on the podcast, which hurts me a little bit deep down, but it is glorious.
I've been working on it.
All right. We'll appreciate it. And again, we hope you come back sometime. And as always, if life puts you in a pin, keep kicking on that 2 count. We'll see everybody next week. Thanks.
Deuces.